You check your phone, nothing. Not a single notification. And something shifts inside you. Not dramatically, just a quiet, low-level discomfort. Like something is missing. You put the phone down, but the feeling stays. That feeling has a name, but it also has something else. It has an age, and it is far older than your phone. That feeling lives inside a part of your brain that evolved hundreds of thousands of years ago. And understanding why it exists might change the way you experience it forever. Because what you feel when you are lonely is not simply an emotion. It is a signal, an ancient biological alarm system. And it is working exactly as designed. To understand why loneliness feels the way it does, you first need to understand what your brain was built for. For most of human evolutionary history, you did not live alone. You did not work alone. You did not eat alone. Your ancestors lived in small, tightly bound groups. Groups where every single person knew your name. Where people noticed when you were gone. In that world, belonging was not a preference. It was a survival requirement. Food was shared within the group. Protection came from the group. Child rearing, shelter, warmth, all of it depended on remaining inside the group. An individual who became isolated did not simply feel uncomfortable. They faced a dramatically increased risk of dying. Your brain learned this lesson over thousands of generations. And it learned it deeply. Psychologist Naomi Eisenberger at UCLA designed a now-famous series of experiments to measure what actually happens inside the brain during social exclusion. Participants were placed in a brain scanner while playing a simple virtual ball-tossing game. Midway through, the other players stopped throwing the ball to them. They were excluded silently, without explanation, and something remarkable appeared in the brain scans. The region that became most active during social exclusion was the anterior cingulate cortex, the same region that processes physical pain. Not a related region, the same region. In simple terms, your brain responds to social rejection the way it responds to being hurt. Not metaphorically, neurologically. When you feel excluded or disconnected, your brain generates a response that resembles physical pain. And this is not an accident. This is a feature, because in your ancestral environment, the threat of social exclusion and the threat of physical harm carried similar consequences. Both could kill you, but there is something even more surprising here. Psychologist Baumeister at the University of Queensland spent years studying what he called the need to belong. His research showed that the need for social connection is not simply a preference. It is a fundamental human motivation, as basic as the need for food. When this need goes unmet, cognitive performance declines. Decision-making deteriorates. Physical health begins to suffer. Now imagine standing near a fire 50,000 years ago. The group is resting. Voices are low. Bodies are close. You are woven into this web of connection and mutual protection.
Wait!
Your nervous
don't
system
leave!
is calm.
We have to go back now!
Not because
it's
everything
not
is safe
here!
but because you are not alone. Now imagine the group begins to move. They start walking. You call out. No one answers. Your heart begins to race. Your threat detection system fires. Because in that environment, being left behind was not socially awkward. It was potentially fatal. Your brain built an alarm system to prevent exactly that from happening. And you still carry that alarm system inside you today. But here is where it gets complicated. The world you live in now looks nothing like the world that alarm system was built for. Your ancestors moved through a social landscape of perhaps 150 people. People they knew deeply. Today you might live in a city of 3 million strangers. You might have hundreds of connections online and feel completely unseen by all of them. And your brain is still running the same ancient software, still scanning for familiar faces, still checking whether you belong. still asking a question your environment may have no answer to. Am I safe here? Does anyone notice me? Researcher John Cacioppo at the University of Chicago spent decades studying the relationship between loneliness and the human body. What he found was troubling. Chronic loneliness is associated with elevated cortisol, the primary stress hormone. It disrupts sleep. It increases inflammation. It affects the immune system. In one long-term study, chronic loneliness was found to be a stronger predictor of early mortality than obesity, comparable in risk to smoking 15 cigarettes per day. Your brain is not overreacting when loneliness hurts. It is treating a social threat as a survival emergency. Because for most of human history, that is precisely what it was. But here is the counterintuitive twist. Most people experience loneliness as a sign that something is wrong with them. A personal failure, a character flaw, but evolutionary biology suggests the opposite. Loneliness is not a sign that you are broken. Loneliness is a sign that your brain is working. It is your nervous system correctly identifying that a fundamental survival need is going unmet. In the same way that hunger tells you that your body needs food, loneliness tells you that your nervous system needs connection. It is not a weakness. It is a signal. The problem is not the signal itself. The problem is the environment. Because the modern world has created something your brain never anticipated. A landscape full of people that still produces the neurological experience of isolation. You can be surrounded by millions and feel the ancient alarm of being left behind. You can have hundreds of followers and feel completely unseen. Your brain cannot fully distinguish between being physically alone and being socially invisible. Both activate the same ancient response, and both are telling you the same thing. Something your nervous system has needed for hundreds of thousands of years. Not entertainment, not distraction, not more digital connection. Something slower, something older. The particular experience of being genuinely known by another person. Psychologist Susan Pinker at McGill University studied communities with unusually high rates of human longevity. She found that what separated the longest-lived people was not diet, not exercise, not genetics. It was the quality of their face-to-face social interactions. Not online interactions, not followers or likes. In-person contact with people who knew them. Your brain, it turns out, knows the difference. It has always known the difference. Because in your ancestral environment, there was no substitute for physical presence. There was only the actual group, the actual fire, the actual people sitting close enough to touch. So the next time you pick up your phone and feel that quiet discomfort, that faint ache that appears even when nothing has obviously gone wrong, remember what it actually is. It is not a flaw in your personality. It is not evidence that you are harder to love than other people. It is one of the oldest signals in the human nervous system.
You made it!
Your brain, shaped across hundreds of thousands of years of social survival, noticing that something it was built to need is not quite there.
You made it!
And in its
Welcome
ancient,
back,
imperfect
everyone.
way, asking you to find your way back to the fire.